If you or someone you love has diabetes, you'll be blessed by our YouTube channel called Beat Diabetes. Benedicta and I conduct blood sugar tests on ourselves. I interview guests that have seen dramatic victory over diabetes. I share reviews of books and documentaries about lowering blood sugar. And I give talks about the keys to getting your A1C down in a hurry. I'm convinced that by God's grace, you can find victory in your struggle with diabetes. Go to YouTube and in their search engine, type in the words Beat Diabetes, Dennis Pollock. We are going to be reading from Matthew, the 20th chapter. The section we'll read follows the part where James and John's mama takes her two sons to Jesus and asks for them to be given a special place in the kingdom. At Jesus' right hand and the other on his left. Jesus said, "You don't really know what you're asking." But he goes on to talk about humility after this. So it says in verse 25, Jesus called them to himself. This is Matthew 20, verse 25. He says, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them." So he's saying the natural thing is, if you're a leader, you're going to lord it over the people that you're leading. You're going to be very strict and bossy, and you're going to have all your demands, and you're going to make sure they do exactly as you say. You get the idea that that's not really the way of the kingdom, even before he goes any further. So he says, this is the natural thing, that if you're a ruler, whether we're talking political ruler, religious ruler, whatever, you're going to have a very strong control, and you're going to lord it. Lord means the boss. You're going to be the boss in a very strict way. Well, there have to be rulers. It's not like we can say, okay, well, fine, then nobody will lead anybody, and we'll all just be our own individual people with no bosses everywhere. There's almost no organization, whether it be the church or a business, that you don't have leaders, right?
Yeah, there is no organization or any country or anything, any place that doesn't have a ruler, because where there is no ruler, everybody will do, as they like, and it's not gonna be really good. We need the leaders, we need the rulers to help out in making things, go well.
Right. And even in the church, when you look at how the church was organized in those early days, they had elders and Bible teachers, and Paul even advises the Christians to submit to those who are in leadership over them. So I think if you look at this from the whole perspective of leadership, Jesus is not saying there should never be any leaders. But he is saying the kind of leadership that is required, that God is pleased with, is a kind of a servant leadership. He goes on to say, after declaring, the leaders of the Gentiles, the non-Jews, they exercise a very strong, bossy lordship over all the people they lead. He says, "It shall not be so among you." That is, that's not how you're going to lead. Yeah, these guys are going to be leaders. These apostles, the disciples, Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, they're going to be leaders in the church within a very short time. We're in Matthew 20, so it's not long before he's going to die on the cross, rise again, and go to heaven. So within a very short time of just a few months, they're going to be the leaders in the church. So he's giving them a lecture about how they should lead. He says the Gentiles, they lord it over people. They don't permit any discussion. They don't allow for any debate. They're harsh in their leadership. He said, but no, not among you. He says, whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. So this is an interesting idea, almost seems to not make a lot of sense. How can you be a leader and a servant at the same time? What do you think?
I think when we when we hear the word servant, it's like, somebody who is serving, who is, either, a houseboy or a housemaid. And, and in this kind of, leadership, it's like if you want to be a leader, you're going to have the mindset of a servant. You're serving everybody, Yeah. Indirectly, you are the leader, either in an organization or, like in a ministry, or in the government. You are there. The people elected you. Okay, you're going to be our leader. And at the same time, you're serving us.
Right. Well, the thing that comes to my mind is how you lead. It's not that you shouldn't lead or that nobody should ever lead anybody. Like we said, you would have total chaos if you say, well, we're going to have a church, but there will be no leaders. We'll all just vote, and everybody's vote will be the same weight as everybody else's, and there'll be no leader at all. And Brother Jones will get up and preach one day, and Brother Smith will preach another day, and then Sister so-and-so will preach, and whoever feels like it, they can just get up and lead. If we have any decisions, we'll just all vote. So no leadership at all, and that's not how the church was built at all. But Jesus seems to be injecting the idea of gentleness in leadership. A servant is not overly harsh because he is a servant, and he is telling these disciples, he's given them a lecture and a lesson about how it should be once they do come into leadership. And he's like, you be gentle with my people. You remember what Jesus said to Peter, do you love me? And Peter said, yeah, I love you. He said, tend my sheep, feed my sheep. He seems to be saying, take care of these little ones, these new believers, those that are going to follow your leadership. Be gentle with them and be very careful about them.
I think Jesus, when he washed the feet of the disciples, he kind of modeled the, way of leadership. Yeah, I'm your leader here. You all are my disciples. And the one leader they had in their midst, stood down and washed their feet. And that is like, I am, teaching you how to lead. You're gonna be leaders, when I'm gone, when he dies and resurrects and go to heaven like he did. And now you just have to know, it's not as if you're going to go all over the place washing everybody's feet, but know that you have to calm down. You have to be humble yourself and lead, because if you are leading with iron hand and you are leading with bossing everybody all the time, that is like dictative, leadership. Is not you're not going to get the attention or the love from everybody that you are leading when you're going that way.
You can see condensed video versions of my devotional studies on YouTube. The graphics and the scripture verses displayed on the screen make these video devos an experience that will bless, uplift, and instruct you. Go to the YouTube website and type in my name, Dennis Pollock, and you'll quickly find our YouTube channel.
As I'm reading this and we're talking about it, I'm thinking about King Solomon. After Solomon died, and then you had Rehoboam, his son, become the king. The people went to Rehoboam, and they said, Solomon made it awful tough on us, and we need some relief. You're taxing us too much. You're bossing us too much. Could you be a little gentler than your daddy, Solomon? Rehoboam said, well, let me get back with you on that. And so he first talked to the older counselors that had counseled Solomon. They said, if you'll be a servant to these people and lead, basically they're saying, if you'll lead them gently, they'll be your servants and they'll follow you forever. But you can't be too harsh. And so he thought about that. And then he said, well, let me ask some more people. So he went to his young buddies. And young people oftentimes are much harsher than older people. Older people have been kind of beat up by life, and they've kind of learned to be a little bit gentler. Sometimes, not always. So he goes to the younger buddies of his, and they say, oh, no, you don't even think about lightening their load. In fact, you tell them my little finger will be thicker than my father's waist. So he went back and gave them a harsh answer. They voted with their feet. They said, fine, we're out of here. And they came up with another country altogether, and the nation split. So Jesus seems to be saying that the counsel of those older men was the best way. Be a servant to your people as a leader. Be gentle. Don't be harsh. Don't be demanding. If you have to make a policy, do it in a kindly way. And people will serve you and they'll love you. And I think that's true. You know, you think about pastors in America particularly, and really pretty much throughout the world. In the church, a key leader in the church is going to be the pastor. If people feel that the pastor cares about them, and if they have a problem, they have an issue, and they go to the pastor, they don't want to hear him say, well, it's my way or the highway, baby. I've made up my mind, and don't even talk to him about any other way. They want him to be gentle. If he has to make a decision that they don't like, at least be gentle about it and be kind about it. And that's exactly what Jesus is saying.
Yeah, like what you said. I remember in those days when I was serving in the ministries, you know, many of the pastors that I served under their, you know, leadership were like, you know, they have this gentle spirit and, you know, make a mild kind of, you know, personality. And they will want to listen to you, you know, when you want to talk. They will give you advice when, you know, where necessary. And one thing I loved about them is like, you know, they listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another scripture example I can think of is where in the early church, after Jesus had resurrected, there was a group of widows, the Greek widows. They were Jews, but they were from a Greek background. And some of the other Jews didn't feel as good about them as they did about the ones that were just pure Jewish. So the Greek widows were being neglected. They were passing out food to the widows, and they were putting the pure Jewish ladies ahead of the Greek Jewish ladies. So they came to him and to the apostles, they kind of complained. They said, hey, our widows are being neglected. When you pass out food, they're not getting some days. And if they do get it, they're getting the leftovers and so forth. Now, the apostles could have said, well, you just need to accept the way things are. You know, we're not going to listen to you. What are you complaining? Don't you know God says don't complain? Don't you know God says don't argue with the leaders? We're telling you this is how it is. This is how it's ever going to be. They didn't do that. They somehow got Jesus' advice, and they looked into it and found out it was true. These Greek widows were being neglected, and they appointed some men. They said, well, we can't take time to oversee the food distribution, but we'll appoint some people, and they'll make sure that those widows don't get neglected. Now, some leaders, they get so upset if you complain about anything, they won't even listen to you. It's like, what are you doing complaining? Don't you know that, you know, I'm the leader and you don't have any right to complain? But they looked into the situation and said, you know what? These people have a point. These ladies are being neglected. Let's appoint some people and get this situation fixed. And they did exactly that. Then everybody was happy, and the church had unity, and all was well. So they got this lesson from Jesus. There's going to be leaders, and you're going to be the leaders in my church, but I want you to be gentle with my people. I want you to be reasonable. I don't want you to be harsh. Don't lord it over them. So he goes on to say, it should not be so among you. If you desire to become great, let that person be a servant. Whoever desires to be first, let him become a slave, just as the Son of Man, now he's talking about himself, did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. So he's saying, hey, I am your leader. And he was Lord. He said, you call me Lord, Lord, you call me Lord, and you're right. I am Lord. But he was a gentle leader. He was a kind leader, and people gave their life to him and loved him and followed him because he was that way. Mm-hmm. So it's a lesson to everybody, really, from parents on to church leaders, business leaders, whatever place of leadership you have. You got to be a leader, and you may have to make some decisions that are not always popular, but do it gently, do it in a kind fashion, and see yourself as a servant to the people to whom you lead. Any last thoughts?
Well, the last thought I have is like, we leaders, and even the leaders of tomorrow, or the people, aspiring to be leaders, and the people who are already in the position of leadership either in the, ministry of Jesus Christ or, in the government or anywhere, one thing I will want to have as a leader, is to make sure that I have the fruit of the Spirit,
Exactly.
Yeah. If you have the Spirit of God in you, and the Spirit of God is constantly bringing out the fruits out of you, you will make a great leader. Because if you read that through in the morning before you get out, make sure you download that as you have a quiet time. No matter, how busy your work is, no matter how, tough it is, no matter that you're going to get out like I was doing in those days, taking care of my little 4 kids, when I was a maid, getting up 4 a.m., make sure you pray, have a quiet time. You don't have to, read the whole chapter of the Bible or 2, 3, or 4, you do here. But read that portion of the Bible, and I think it's Galatians. And you make sure that you download that inside you, and you have the love of God, in the morning as you go out. Make sure you go through it, love, patience, and all of that. And then you'll be patient with people because they're going to come at you like a hawk.
So that is so true. And just to remind people about the fruit of the Spirit that would be so important in a leader. One, of course, is love. You love your people that you lead. You care about them deeply. Another is patience. You're patient with people. Sometimes people will get on your last nerves and drive you crazy. And, if you're not patient and you just get out of here, I don't want to hear that. That's just stupid. Then you're going to turn them off, and they're going to do what people will always do. They're going to vote with their feet, and they're just going to walk away. And then humility is another important thing, which Jesus is emphasizing. Really, when he talks about being a servant, he's talking about having a humble attitude. So to kind of sum up, Jesus is not saying there are no leaders. There should never be any kind of leadership. Obviously, there must be, but it should be servant leadership that looks at those people you lead and deeply cares about them and interacts with those people when there are issues, when there are problems, when there are complaints in a gentle, kindly fashion.